Online Quilt Club. It's open as of right now, this moment. It is 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and you can find it in our online shop. That's where you can click on it, and then you can just register. It's a digital online club that I'm going to be talking to you all about today. Let's just make sure that technology is on our side and y'all can see me and hear me just fine. Let me see, my chat is working, so that's a big thumbs up. I'm coming to y'all tonight from my home sewing studio here in North Central Florida, where it's actually really nice out right now. And for us, that's like 80s. No biggie, but still humid, but nice. All right. Hey, Diane. Hey, Margie, happy anniversary. Kathleen from Vermont is tuning in. Hey, Wendy from Hawaii. She says, aloha. All right, good. So it looks like y'all can see me and hear me. Diana says, hi from New York. I love FPP and I'm all signed up. Can't wait to make the projects. Awesome. Awesome. Big thumbs up to you, Diana, for signing up already. I do believe you were the first one that got in before I went live. So extra brownie points to you for that. Okay, great, good. Everybody can see me and hear me. Now, FPP, if you're new to the lingo here, it stands for foundation paper piecing, which is a technique used to make quilts or other quilted projects, right? So that's what we're going to be focusing on for this new online quilt club. Now, if you're tuning in new, this is kind of a different time for us to do a WIP Wednesday, but back in the days, like 2019, 2020, 2021, we did a lot of evening flash sales, Wednesdays or Friday nights at this time. So I thought, hey, we would launch the new online club at 7 p.m. So I see that some of you are saying this is your first time catching me live. So I'm glad that you are tuning in. Hey, Jessie, she says, I'm so excited for this. I'm glad that you have tuned in too. So tonight I'm going to be showing you the 5 mini quilts that are going to be the main focus, I would say, of my new online quilt club. But if you are new around here, I wanted to welcome you. My name is Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini, and I teach a lot of different things. Tonight we're going to be focusing on the specific quilting technique known as FPP, or foundation paper piecing. So let's go ahead and add this over the shoulder shot, since I'm going to be showing the different mini quilts and we'll be showing some example blocks. Now, a quick little background. I have been hosting online quilt clubs since 2014. We launched the first one at the end of the year. So we ran a year-long one in 2015 and 2016. Then we did another quilt club in 2019. And then we did the Clammy Quilt Club last year in 2021. So this is going to be my 5th online quilt club. I also have hosted online video bag of the month clubs where we make different types of bag projects. We did 2 of those last year, 2 clubs, and then I've done wallet clubs and organizer types of projects. So these are online membership clubs that are like a big bundle of courses, right? So my specialty is in step-by-step video lessons, no matter the topic. That's what I do. I film step-by-step video lessons, and we host them either on our YouTube channel here, but for my clubs and my digital courses, they're hosted separately and privately because they're for pay, okay? So once the students sign up and they pay for it, then you get unlimited, indefinite access that never expires to whatever the club or the course was that you paid to sign up for. And I have thousands of students that can vouch for the way that we do that, because people have signed up for classes we launched in 2015 and 2016. Until this day, my team will get an email and say, hey, I signed up for a class, I think in 2017, I got sick, I wasn't able to do it, I'm better now, I want to log in and access the video lessons. And it's nothing but like a quick reset their password and they're in, because it's all linked to your account. Once you pay, you have indefinite access to whatever you have paid for from our website, okay, when it comes to digital content. So, oh, Heather's on. She says, I'm so excited. I just signed up. Thank you. So let's go through real quick. My online quilt club will consist of step-by-step video lessons on making 5 different mini quilts. However, it's not just going to be 5 mini quilts or 5 foundation paper piece projects that you can make, because we are going to throw in 5 additional different quilt blocks that use foundation paper piecing methods, okay? So we'll talk about those later on in the week. I'm going to do another video and specifically go into those types of bonuses. But tonight, because this is the first time that we have opened the virtual doors for my online quilt club, FPP edition, okay, foundation paper piecing, let's go ahead and show you the 5 mini quilts that we will be tackling. So the first one is the Raykite little mini quilt. Now, if you're wondering, like, why would people make mini quilts? I personally have 1¼ of a wall in my sewing studio where I make mini quilts, oftentimes in teaching through classes, through video lessons, through tutorials, or through other online quilt clubs. I will teach a technique, and I find that mini quilts is a super fun way to do two things. You get to practice the technique that you've just learned without that overwhelming feeling of like, oh my gosh, how many blocks do I need to make? I need to finish this into like a queen size quilt. That can be super overwhelming, especially for a beginner or somebody who is beginning to learn a new technique, right? So when we tackle the foundation paper piecing, I'm gonna share with you 3 different methods that I like to use for different foundation paper piece. So one of them is using the foundation, which is a sheet of paper. And we talked about this last week on WIP Wednesday number 68. So if you want to go into like a full hour long of me talking about this and going through a full block demo, definitely go back and watch WIP Wednesday number 68, okay? Because I do that there. But here, this is like a freebie block that I have up on my website, and on the last couple videos I think that I posted to my YouTube channel, there's a link on where you can download it. So this is just what I call a practice block, so that you can go back and watch episode 68 or do a YouTube search for paper piecing tutorial, and you'll see one of my videos that's over a decade old. It has over 500,000 views. People really like the video because I break down how to do foundation paper piecing. However, because that was over a decade ago, I have changed my methods, got better tools, better lighting, and so these video lessons will be slightly different because I will be covering 3 different techniques in the new online quilt club. So this is a foundation paper. It comes in 8.5 by 11 sheets, so we can run it through our printer, and that's the idea. This is the pack that we sell in our online shop. So if you're signing up for the quilt club tonight, I've seen several of you that have already signed up, went ahead and added a stack, 100 sheets, so that you'll be ready for when the quilt club, the first project of the 5 mini quilts goes up, which is going to be June 8th. Now we have a downloadable 2-page printable calendar, and I'll grab this from here. Just so you can see, my team has already put together a 2-page calendar. So if you're wanting to know like what dates is this club gonna run, is this gonna fit my schedule, am I gonna be able to make any of the live components, we have a 2-page calendar, and you don't even have to sign up yet to see the calendar. So if you wanna look at it first before signing up, I have included the link to download the 2-page club calendar in the product page. So if you're ready to sign up for the Foundation Paper Piece Quilt Club, you know what it is, you've watched my last 3 videos, you watched maybe the last episode of WIP Wednesday number 68, and you're ready, you can just head over to craftygemini.com/shop, and it's going to be the first product that you see there under all products, okay? We've also put the link in the video description box of this video here on YouTube, and we'll put it in the chat for those of you that are tuning in via Facebook. Okay, so this is the first block, or excuse me, the first mini quilt. So you can see I was talking about the mini quilts and putting them up on the wall. This requires only 4 of these blocks, and you end up with a cute, about a 12-inch square mini quilt that you can put up anywhere for decoration, okay? But if you use, and I often talk about this, the block by itself, you can do other things with it, right? You can do, pretend this one was the right size. I use that one as a sample to show what can go wrong when you don't have the right measurements for your paper piecing templates. But say you did something like this, and this could be like, then say like a solid denim fabric here, or like a linen kind of in a neutral color. How amazing would that look as the front panel of a big tote bag, right? So we're not just going to be making mini quilts. I like to teach, and this goes for all my projects, I like to teach different skills and techniques via a project, but that you're still building up your skill set while you're completing different projects. Because then maybe you get an idea, or you see something that you like, and then you think, if I deconstruct this, like I know how to do this, I know how to do that, I can put them together and make something my own. So over the years, I have been so impressed by so many of you who have taken little basic skills from my classes, from my tutorials, from my online clubs, and then you end up putting them all together and have taken your skill set like, way beyond. People are designing their own projects. Some of my past students are getting published in magazines, right? So I'm all about teaching my students how to better their skills, gain more confidence as you're tackling these projects, and so that you feel confident enough to make projects your own, make a different pattern that you see. Maybe you don't like a component of it, change it up, because you know, hey, I've done this before in Vanessa's classes, I can do this now again by changing a few things up. Because you know that when I teach, I always go into the why we're doing things, not just do this, but why you're doing it, okay? All right, so that's And I gulped that water too quick. Okay, so that's one block. It could be a coaster. You can put several of them together. You can even put a bunch of them together and say, make some placemats or table runners, or of course, a bigger quilt. I got a question the other day on Facebook from a lady that was asking, oh my gosh, for mini quilts, and she was wondering, can I still make these blocks into larger size quilts? Absolutely. Foundation paper piece blocks are like any other quilt block. It's just based on the size is the limitation, right? If you have a little block and you want to repeat that 100 times, you know, you can put them together to make a larger size quilt. Okay, so the Raykite one was the first. One thing I love about this is that it has only 8 pieces, so you're going to be learning a lot even just making the one block. And I will encourage all my students and members of the Quilt Club to try making this 4-block mini quilt, because by the time you get to the second one, you're going to be like, whoa, big difference in how confident you feel completing the block. So by the time you make the third and the fourth, you're going to feel solid with this. And this block would be adorable to make like an I Spy quilt for little kids. You can use all types of scraps. I went with a monochromatic look here, where I have different shades of greens, different shades of pinks and reds, right? But this could be like a black, a purple, an orange, a green. You could do scrappy multicolored in each one and end up with a really scrappy looking quilt that the background can be the same across all the blocks, and that will help tie it all together. Or you can have this be totally different too, right? So you can go really, really scrappy with a lot of these blocks. So the next one is this super cute little, and you can see on some of these I have the quilt sandwiches prepped, but I'm getting ready to go ahead and quilt them. So they're not yet complete. This is my little Bumble Bee block. How adorable is this? Again, you can make 3 of these in different black and gold or black and yellow fabrics and stack them like this vertically. That would make a really cute quilt or a wall hanging to put in a hallway of a bathroom or something like that. That's totally something that I would do. I love that this one is small. You can give it as a gift, as a mug rug. Have y'all done mug rugs before? If you're my past students, I know you have. Renee says, these mini quilts look like fun. And Lenny says, woohoo, I am paid for the FPP club. So let me get through these so we can talk about money, because I know some of you that are new here are probably asking what the price is. Although the link is in the description box below. If you're ready to head over there, you can see the product page with all the details. Okay. So that's the second one. This guy measures only 5 inches by 7 inches. So a nice, cute mini quilt. You can give it even as a coaster or as a hostess gift, you know, to be used as a mug rug or something like that. Then we have this cute ice cream cone. And this is, again, a singular block, but it is a little bit larger in size. So we'll be talking about a few different things. And this one also, it's funny how when you work on foundation paper piece projects, it looks like, oh, that's so simple. Like you look at like the ice cream and the cone. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 separate pieces of fabric that get sewn together to create the ice cream cone. Okay, so that's going to be that mini. And let me see where my ruler is right quick, because I just want to give y'all some rough measurements so you can kind of have an idea. They're all kind of small-ish, but some of them have 4-patch mini quilt that we put together. Some of them are mini quilts that are made up of a single block. So this one is going to finish after it has the binding and the mini quilt is all done. It's going to be about 10 inches square, okay? How cute would that be in a kid's room? Now, because this block is 10 inches square, if you've made quilts before, you know that that's a decent sized block. You can make what, maybe like a 5 by 4, maybe 20 of these blocks, and you would end up with a really nice quilt. I could see something like this on a kid's bed, right? With different colors and different fabrics for the ice cream cone and different color ice creams. How fun would that be? I think that would be super cute. Okay. Now, the next one, I posted this one on Instagram today, and a lot of people were like, ooh, I like that one. So look how cute that is. This is a little tulip. Pretend that these are tulip leaves. The point of this is not that they are are accurate in the real world, right, of the leaves of a tulip. But I want you to see, and I want my students to practice. This is not going to be one of the first ones that we tackle in the group of 5, but later on, because if you can see how narrow the blade of green is there to make up that leaf all the way to here, it would be really tricky to try and piece this to this level of accuracy, something at such a kind of like a weird angle and that narrow tapering off like that without using foundation paper piecing. So that's one of the reasons that we love FPP so much, is because of the accuracy that we get on things like this. So this is my way. Again, remember I said earlier, I like to teach my students new skills and techniques so they can elevate their sewing or quilting level in this case. And so by doing that, you're completing the little mini quilt, but I want you to see what it takes and how to press the seams when you have, this is one separate fabric from this one, separate from this one, separate from this one, separate from this one, right? So you have all the seams in the back, and so I'll be giving you all the tips and tricks on how to make everything lie nice and flat so that your blades or little leaves like this coming off of the stem look like this as well. And again, I did the top here orange, and you can see these are 3 different orange fabrics. So if you have a lot of fabric, scraps. FPP is for you, okay? Yes, you see Elizabeth says, my plan is to pull all from scraps, except probably for the background. That sounds like a perfect idea to me, okay? If you want to go with plain white, you know, you can use just like a white cotton fabric. You can use pale grays. There are even some really, really light pale blues that I have used before, like this one that I did on the Bumble Bee. This is a really light blue that it looks nice as a background fabric. And I did that specifically because the little wings are white. So if I would have had wings white and a white background too, they would have just blended in, right? So these are things that we're going to be talking about. And I'll share with you some of the bonus printables that we have put together for you to help you select fabrics. I know every time I do some quilt clubs or quilt classes, one of the main complaints that I get from students is I need help choosing fabrics, right? So we're going to help you with that when it comes to this foundation paper piecing mini quilt club, okay? This is another one of the minis. And then the last one that I have here is the kitty stack. And obviously this one's not done yet, but it's a kitty face. And we are going to go over some different ways that we can add eyes, maybe even whiskers, maybe some hand embroidery, or some buttons, some French knots, some whiskers here with some like running stitches. That would look super cute, right? I think so. And again, this block is a decent size that you could make a ton of them and put it together easily into a larger size quilt. Okay, so that is another one here. So that is 5. So we have the kitty stack, we have the tulip, the little bumblebee, the ice cream cone. And remember, these templates are only going to be available to those of you that sign up for the Quilt Club, and you'll always have access to them. So if you make these minis through the duration of the club along with us, then you will always have the templates there, because when we're doing foundation paper piecing, whether you're using the print on the sheets of like the foundation paper that we sell in the shop like this, or you're doing a freezer paper method, you're still going to need sheets with the printed template on it, okay? And so once you're in the club, as we drip out each project, because we're going to be pretty much every week, we'll be working on a different mini quilt and block. But we do, if you have a look at the calendar, we do have an off week because we're in the United States here and the July 4th holiday will be coming up. And what we found that people really liked last year is an off week, like in the middle, somewhere in the middle of the club, to either take a break or catch up, because not everybody can really, you know, stay along with the lessons. And the good thing about my clubs is they're always there for you. Once I put out the content on the date that the calendar says, you can log in any day after that, okay? And you will still have access to the content, whether or not you were able to catch it like right at the moment that it went live. If you're busy, if you're traveling for the summer, you won't lose access to any of the content, okay? All right. Oh, Margie says, oh my gosh, adorable. Thank you. Glenda says, I love this. I can't wait. So let's go ahead and see, because I think I see some notifications popping in that some of you are signing up. Let's do a quick little roll call. If you have already signed up for my new Foundation Paper Piecing Quilt Club, let us know in the chat below, and I'll call out some names and give y'all some shout outs. Okay, so those were the 5. Now, remember I said we're going to give y'all 5 extra bonus patterns, and I will share those in a future video. But let's talk a little bit about the bonus printables now. We have a printable PDF here for 7 quilting tips on foundation paper piecing. I have a lot of you that are just signing up for this quilt club and you have no idea about FPP, or you've been wanting to learn for a long time. And so you get this free PDF with some tips there. When you sign up, you'll get an emailed receipt that tells you how to log in. If you've taken any of my classes or clubs, you know how to do it. You log in on our website. on your student dashboard, you click My Individual Courses, and right there it'll be in there. You'll see FPP Quilt Club. Click on it. The whole course schedule is already there. The downloadable PDFs for the tips and where did I put the calendar? And the 2-page calendar is already in there, so you can print it out if you want to be super organized and start putting these dates and times of when the project videos will go live. Pretty much starting June 8th, that's going to be the first day of the project. So if you still don't have supplies or rulers and that kind of stuff, don't freak out. You still got time. You got a couple weeks before the first block goes up, okay? The projects themselves or the video lessons will be posted to the course platform pretty much every Wednesday starting June 8th. The first one will go up. Then that following weekend, we will have a couple of live components. So if you were a part of my Clammy Quilt Club last year, you already know. We're going to do the same thing with the live Q&A chat. So here's how it works. The first block video lessons will go up on, say, Wednesday, June 8th. You got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even Sunday morning to review it and look over it. And then throughout those days, people will submit their questions, any questions that you may run into as you watch the videos and as you try to make the block, okay? Any questions you have, you submit them to me, then I prep for it, and then on the Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, we will have the live Q&A number 1, which will be based on the first block that we covered, which is going to be the Raykite one. I already know that, so it's already listed up there. So any questions that y'all have on that mini quilt, I will answer here in a private live Q&A, and then the next night on the Monday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will have our live Zoom social hour, which is where we get together. I still answer some questions, but it's not so focused on techniques and the video lessons. It's more like we show the fabrics that we're using, people show how they made it their own, we chit chat about it, and it's a really fun time. That seems to be a very popular component to my courses and my clubs lately. So we've definitely kept that this go around, okay? So we have a live Q&A per block per quilt, and a live Zoom social hour per project. So you're going to have 10, okay? So 10 live components. Now, again, if the time zones don't work for you, that's always something, that's really tricky, and we struggle with that. If you don't, or if you're not able to tune in based on my time zone, don't worry too much about it, because once the live is over, we post the recording or the replay of those live sessions. So a lot of students will just go back and watch it on their own time. And knowing that even if you didn't have a question to submit, you're going to watch it anyways, because you're going to gain value from whatever I'm answering of other students' questions. So those are always really helpful to have, okay? And then all that stuff will stay there as part of the course content that you paid for. And then the next Wednesday, the next one will go up, the same thing like that, okay? The off week is from June 28th to July 5th. And then the July 6th, we're already going to be on block or mini quilt number 4, and that will go up then, okay? So definitely make sure that you print out that calendar so that you have that information, or just save it. So I see some of you are saying that you don't have a printer. Unfortunately, for foundation paper piecing, you either need a printer, or you could also, I guess, if you had some of this like a really thin foundation paper, you could trace the design off. That's going to be really cumbersome. If you have a copy shop or something like that near you that you can give them the files on like a little thumb drive or something and get them to print out all the documents for you, that would be helpful, because it is foundation paper piecing, you're going to need some type of printed stuff of the foundations, whether it's on the foundation paper or on freezer paper. It still needs to be printed, okay? Then we have a sewing supply checklist specifically for the club. I have things on here that I recommend. We have links in this PDF that lead you to the product if we carry it in our shop. If we don't, then the link is not there. But I also put together, it's like a 15-minute long video that's here on my YouTube channel. I've already put it into the club page or the club platform so that you can watch that video where I go over again some sewing supplies that I recommend you have. Because a lot of people think, oh, I might not have the specialty tools, but you really only need basic quilting supplies aside from the paper with the printed foundation, okay? Then we have put together, and these aren't all up in the course yet because all the projects, we're going week by week. So they're not all going to be in there, but the cutting directions for the mini quilts. Remember that I told y'all last week on WIP Wednesday, I go through and tell you exactly what component that is in the project. So like this little bumblebee, look how cute. The little bumblebee block, I go through here and I tell you what each section of the template is called, A1, A2, A3, and all that. And so when you have the printed foundation, you'll see what it looks like. And they're labeled with each of these. And so we have here then sky telling you, hey, this is going to be a piece that's going to be part of the sky. That way you know, based on the fabrics that you're choosing to use, which fabric to grab, okay? So, you know, sometimes if you're just looking at like a A1 and A7 and B3, it can be a little confusing. So we also went ahead and put in like sky background, you know, on the different blocks, or like in this case, black, yellow, black, yellow. So you know that these different cut pieces are going to correspond to the different black and yellow components of the bumblebee block. So hopefully this makes it super straightforward and easy. And we will put up the cut direction sheet for the first one ahead of time. That way y'all will have time to kind of, you know, pick your fabrics, which is super fun, and cut your pieces out, okay? Jean says, I'm hoping to use a lot of scraps. Let me tell you, Miss Jean, pull out all your scraps because you're going to put them to work with these quilts for sure, okay? All right. Awesome. Oh, Carol has a great question. She's asking, will there be instructions for the quilting? I have never free motion quilted before. So yes, so part of that is why you see these are incomplete yet. Okay, I always like to have at least 2 of whatever the project is that I'm teaching to show y'all in the club lessons. So these guys will probably stay like this until I do some bonus videos on the quilting. And I want to cover both. Some quilting options, and I did this last year for the Clammy Quilt Club. I added some bonus videos with the quilting information, right? This is not going to be a free motion quilting club. We're focusing specifically on these projects with foundation paper piecing, but because I want you to complete the quilts and bind them up and put them on a wall, hopefully, I will definitely give you options and show you, because I'll have at least 2 of each mini quilt done, to show you, you know, this is what I would recommend here. Try not to quilt too densely here. You don't want this to be too open in this space because the fabric may pucker if it's a larger chunk like one of these guys, right? So I will definitely share those tips with you, and we will go over some ways, and of course I'll show you visually with the camera, ways to quilt these quilts on your sit-down sewing machine as well as on a long arm. So these guys already have batting chunks behind them. The next batch of mini quilts, I'm just going to float them, meaning I'm going to take just the mini quilt itself, like the quilt top, and place it on a larger chunk of batting and backing on my long arm, and I will quilt them there. And that way, whether or not you have a long arm, but if you have a sewing machine and you're making these, then you'll definitely be able to quilt them too. Okay, so we will cover with some bonus videos on how you can quilt them. Now, you said you've never free motion quilted before, but you don't have to do free motion quilting. So that's one of the things that I'll cover. I do that a lot, especially like last year in my quilt club. I shared straight line quilting with a walking foot. I shared slightly curvy lines with a walking foot. And so those are other options that you don't have to be like a free motion quilter with the full-on gloves and, you know, the clear foot. You don't have to go that deep into it to get these quilted and ready to, you know, display or to gift. All right? All right. Hi, Nancy. She says, has the club started yet? I just joined. Found your videos today for the first time. Well, welcome. I can hardly believe it. A Crafty Gemini newbie, welcome to the crowd. We have been here for a long, long time, and the club is just opening now. That's why I'm on here talking about it. But the first project is going to be posted to students registered in the club platform on June 8th. And the reason for that is that we are open. We're taking students right now for this new online quilt club, Foundation Paper Piecing Edition, from today. And what day is it today? May 25th? Yes. All the way until June 3rd. After June 3rd, imagine I'm like in a classroom like, all right, the bell rung, everybody in, and then I shut the door. And at that time, that's it. I'm not letting no more students in, okay? So from today, Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, to June 3rd, and that includes 2 Fridays there, because I often get people saying, hey, I need another Friday for payday or whatever it is. So you get this Friday, and then that next Friday, June 3rd, at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time, then I will close up the virtual doors and we won't let anybody else in. And then that following Wednesday, boom, the first video lessons go up, okay? Now, right after June 3rd, when we close the doors, you will see a welcome video posted to the course platform. Right now, you can go in there and download the PDFs, the calendar, your supply checklist, start gathering your stuff, okay, for when the first class goes up. All right, awesome. Sharon says, I just joined, and she's up in Australia, she says. Awesome, welcome. Sandra just joined. Sharon just joined. Another one, that's another Sharon. Okay, good. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I can't wait to see your mini quilts. And I think these are going to be super fun because since most of them feature like an actual thing, I want to see the different fabrics that y'all use and be like, wow, I would have never thought to use that one. And so this also applies to those of you that are going to be pulling out your fabric scraps. If you have a fabric that's maybe like an color, but it has like texture to it as far as in the print and the design, think outside the box and start gathering ones that you think might work. And you might not even think they will work, but once you put them there and you're looking at it, you're like, oh, this ugly fabric might work really well right here. And that tends to happen to us a lot. So don't throw away the ugly fabrics because they work really great when you're chopping them up into small bits for these types of patchwork pieces. So these are just a couple that I had here that I just printed out, but you will have a PDF with the cutting instructions for each segment of the foundation so that you don't have to be guesstimating. And we know what happens when we guesstimate, right? With foundation paper piecing. This is my sample. You end up with blocks that are missing chunks. Some of them are salvageable. Some of them are just like, sometimes it's like in the last piece that you add and you're like, no, right? You end up having it too short. You can't trim it to size. You're off by like a ½ inch like I am here. And that can be super frustrating. So what I do, because I designed these blocks myself, I've made every single one to the point where I take my measurements the way that I like to do it and I figure, okay, this background piece needs to be this measurement by this, let's say 5 inches by 3.5 inches or whatever. I make it with those dimensions and then I see if I'm kind of close, me as a teacher and a designer, I'm like, let me adjust these measurements a little bit more because I want beginners to foundation paper piecing to have successful results. I want you to end up with blocks that look like these fresh, crispy ones here and not like this one. Because yes, we're not using that much fabric, but it's still super frustrating because you're like, okay, I'm stitching on all the lines. The seams are looking perfect. Everything is going great. And then when you miscalculate a chunk of fabric, especially if it's like the focal fabric, right? Sometimes we only have like half of a fat quarter. And so you're like holding on to it for just the right project. If you make a wrong cut in one of these blocks or you stitch it on wrong, then, that piece is typically wasted, especially if it's like a smaller piece that was, used up from a larger chunk. And so that can be very discouraging too. So hopefully you'll be good with these measurements because I've gone through, tested everything with the math. I come up with the measurements myself, and that way you know that it's not just like I handed it off to somebody. I'm doing the math because that's my jam. I love to cut fabric. That's my favorite part of the entire quilting process. I know I'm one of the loner ones out there. Not everybody loves to cut, but I love the math and coming up with the measurements of each piece. And so I give you that. And we're going to have that for every single one of the 5 mini quilts that we're going to be tackling so that you can go in. Notice we went ahead and put little boxes here so you can check them off as you cut each one so you can keep all your stuff super organized because it can get a little bit wild when you have a lot of different patchwork pieces that are similar in size for the same project, okay? So 1, 2, 3, let me move these out of the way. And then here is one of the funnest things. We did this last year with the Clammy Quilt Club, and I know that y'all are gonna love it this year too. We have included coloring pages for all of the mini quilts as well. So you might be wondering, what is it? Let's see. Oh, Jean says I have lots of ugly fabrics. Awesome. Oh, great. Linda says she's all set. So you signed up too. Thank you. Pamela's in. Marilyn's all signed up. Awesome. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see y'all's mini quilts. So we are talking about the new Crafty Gemini Quilt Club Foundation Paper Piecing Edition, which is a specific technique to make quilts and quilt blocks. And so I was just showing y'all, for anybody that's tuning in just now, is that we have included coloring pages. So if you have colored pencils or markers, some people even cut out pieces, like scrap pieces of fabric, and will take a glue stick and stick it just so they can visually see how it's gonna turn out. So this, for those of you that love to be super duper prepared, or if you have a massive fabric stash of scraps, you will be able to go in here and notice if we were able to put them on one page like multiples, this will give you basically 2 options to play and color with. So each of the individual segments that make up the quilt block, let me zoom in a little bit more because I know those lines are kind of light. Okay. So each chunk here, we went ahead and put in the coloring pages the outline of every patchwork piece, because you need to go in and sort out, like, did you want to have the outer border, these chunks here, a different fabric from the background of the flower itself, right? These are all going to be very individual decisions that you'll need to make, and each chunk that is represented here is a different piece of fabric, so it could be a totally different piece of fabric, right? So the tulip, for example, is made up of 1, 2, and 3 patchwork pieces, and I'll grab the sample so that you can see it displayed here. This is, okay, 1, 2, and 3 orangey fabrics that I pulled from my massive stash of scraps as well. All right, so 1, 2, and 3. You can make it like I did with 3 different fabrics, or you can use these to be the same fabric and this one maybe something lighter. Okay, you can do whatever you want, but these coloring pages are going to allow you to play around a little bit with color positioning, or even the fabric pieces themselves. You can cut out a little chunk of a scrap fabric and stick it there. And I bet you some people are going to do that, and I totally want to see pictures of it so that can inspire other people with your different fabric ideas. Okay, now we do have a private Facebook group where all the members that have ever been in any of my quilt clubs in the past are in there. And so if you are on Facebook, it's going to be an optional private group that you can join. You don't have to. Plenty of my students in my courses and clubs don't have Facebook, and they don't care for it. But if you do want to see what fabrics people are using, or, where people are sharing the projects or how many of these they made, some people might make one, and then by next weekend, they'll post a picture and be like, I made one for my grandkid, and you'll see like 100 of the kitty blocks already pieced, made, and put together into a quilt, which is so fun, and of course, super inspiring to see what other students in the same club are going to be making. Okay, Elizabeth says, I'm the wing it type. I never color ahead of time. Girl, you and me, we're here. I literally throw everything on there. I'm like, that kind of looks a little something, a little yellowish. Not really orange, but I'll grab it. Like, y'all know me. I wing it all. Okay. Oh, Marcia says, I love the coloring preview page resource. Yeah, so I know it was really well received last year with the other quilt clubs. So again, we typically at the end of our courses and our clubs, we will send out a feedback survey. So we read over everything as a team. We make decisions on what to include, what to take out, what to add. And so, of course, we listen to y'all and we deliver. Okay, so that's one. Here you can see the Raykite. Remember that one Raykite block is just like this. Okay, but we went ahead and fit in the 4 here so that you have it represented as the mini quilt. So if you want to do something like I did and go with that monochromatic vibe, you can play around in here with different shades of what color you want to have that kind of monochrome feel with. Okay, and you can do that. I think this would look super hot in like black, whites, and grays, like just fully neutral. If you made up an entire, like imagine a big quilt, like a regular bed quilt, just with blacks, whites, and grays. That would look amazing, I think. But it also looks super fun and cute colors. There's no denying that. Bright colors, bright colors, wow. Bright colors always look good. Okay, so that was that one. This is this one. And these are already up there. So those of you that have signed up, when you log into your account in the club platform, just, click the different lessons, click the different links so you can familiarize yourself with the platform where everything is going to be the intro information. You can download your PDFs that are there from there. The calendar, the supply list, the coloring pages, that kind of stuff. This is the one for the kitty stack. Let me grab it. So again, it's represented here just as the mini quilt in a four patch block, okay? So this is another thing. If you were going to make, say, a larger quilt like this, you can print out a bunch of these pages, and I would just like stick them together, and that way you can kind of position and play around with what colors are going to go on each. If you're working on things like I Spy quilts and stuff like that that are going to be super scrappy, that's another option to use the coloring pages for, okay? And then we have the ice cream one, and remember that the coloring pages themselves have the complete block outline so that you can see. Remember, we went through and I counted 13 different patchwork pieces for this one ice cream cone quilt block, okay? 13 different pieces of fabric come together to make this little pretty simple block. But again, I will be teaching you the different techniques. This one is towards the end of the club because of these angles here. And usually when it's a large piece and you have slanted seams, like slanted angles, is where people make the biggest mistakes as far as not gauging the correct size fabric. Like you'll flip it out after you press it and sew that seam, and you'll be like short. Like you won't finish off square to where you can trim it. And so this is going to be towards the end once I kind of really, you know, nail in the different techniques, the paper method, the freezer paper method, and then my little hybrid method. We'll go over that, okay? But I want you to know that in the coloring pages, because even these little corner sections here that create the kind of more curved feel to the ice cream itself, this is a piece of fabric that has to match. Well, it doesn't have to. Let me stop. But it's a background piece, right? And you want it to blend in so that all the background blends away and it kind of looks like a curve from here. So you need to be mindful of all the individual components when you are selecting your fabrics. And so I think also, because most of you are probably going to be, you know, kind of beginners to foundation paper piecing, this will definitely help you, and that way you can color it. Or if you're planning to use white like I did on this block, you can just leave those blank and then play around with different fabrics. I thought this one was cute. Those polka dots almost look like little sprinkles. I was like looking through my fabric stash like, what do I have that looks like ice cream, like sprinkles? And so that part of it is actually fun. It can be frustrating if you don't have that large of a stash, or like if you remember that you have some fabric and you don't know where it is. You're like, I know what fabric I'm looking for, I just don't know what bin it's in. And I'm talking like a mad person, but I know so many of you out there know what I'm talking about. Y'all can relate. All right. So that's that. This ice cream cone, and then the bumblebee. So if you look at this one, again, because each little fabric section is like we have the outline for every single piece. When you look at this, you can very easily get confused with what piece is what. And so that's another reason that in the printables that include the cutting directions, we went ahead and put black and sky and yellow so that you know where each one is going. So if you look at the image and then you think, okay, maybe I want to do, you know, blues and like a darker blue and a light blue, because obviously it doesn't have to be black and yellow. You can do whatever you want. Go ahead and color it in on this one. This is one of the coloring pages for one of the blocks that's really going to come in handy for you to go ahead and color them in because of all the lines. You can barely make out what it is if you're just looking at this. Okay, so that will help because you can see this is like the smallest one and it has like the most pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 patchwork pieces, y'all. Look at that. And it's the smallest one, but it's so cute. I love foundation paper piecing. A lot of fun. Susan says that's definitely me. You see, Heather says that happens to me all the time. I have to go through all the bins. Yes, girl, that is the story of our lives. It's like, where's that fabric that I bought in 2016 when I went to Quilt Festival in Houston? You know, you're like, I know exactly the print. I can tell you the designer's name, the collection, and then you can't find it. The struggle is real for us quilters, I know. All right, so we talked about the different printables that you get, and I haven't even talked about the bonus patterns. We'll talk about that later on in the week since the club is open from today, Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, until next Friday, June 3rd, okay, at 11:59 p.m. So from here to there, you know you're going to be seeing my face again. I will do more videos, share more stuff with y'all, and we'll talk a little bit more about the club. So if you have friends who think they want to join the Quilt Club, definitely let them know. So now, 5 patterns, PDF coloring pages, supply checklist, cutting directions for each, a page with 7 tips for foundation paper piecing, a bunch of bonus videos, 5 extra bonus patterns, 5 live Q&A sessions where I answer your questions on each of the specific, you know, each of the 5 different mini quilts that we're going to be tackling. That's 5 live Q&A chats. And then 5 live Zoom social hours where we chit chat on Zoom with the other Quilt Club members. Okay, so that's 5 more live components. So all of that. And the price is $97. Okay, it's on sale right now. It's about, usually we start them off at like $137, but I went back, and because we did the Climate Quilt Club last year for $97, I decided that since the price of everything else is going up, I would keep my Quilt Club the same as last year. Since everything else has been going up. So $97 gives you lifetime access to all these projects, all the printable templates, for these foundation paper piece blocks and mini quilts that we're going to be making, okay? As well as any bonus videos that I decide to create in the process of the club. So sometimes it happens where like we're doing something and somebody's like, hey, how could we use this block on the front of this bag? Or how can we turn this into a pillow or something, you know? And so usually if I have time, I'll just say, okay, I'll just make an additional bonus video and add it to the course platform or to the club platform. And then I just make like a whole nother video course on it and I post it up there. So that's one of the reasons I like to do my own thing, my own courses, my own designs, my own projects, because I can add and take away stuff however I please, right? So if I need to add more bonus videos, I just film them, make them, and post them on there for y'all to watch indefinitely. Because if it adds value, if it builds on the techniques and the skills that I'm already teaching you in the Quilt Club, you know, I'm more than happy to, you know, film some more video lessons and post them there for you, okay? All right. Let's see. Oh, Diane says finally something that isn't going up and is so much fun. I feel you. And we have a lot of scraps, and I feel like a lot of people are like, I'm not going to buy any more fabric. I'm only going to use my scrap. So this club will be just the thing because it features so many different little pieces. Granted, some of the patterns are going to feature larger chunks of pieces. So like these background chunks here are like 7 inches by 8 inches. Okay, so you would need, you know, larger chunks of fabric. So if you had like a neutral that you wanted to keep as the background yardage, you know, a couple yards of that should be good, and that will give you plenty. To make all 5 projects actually. And then if you have a large collection of brights like I do, then you can chop those scraps up to make all these mini quilts, okay? So I am super excited to get this thing started. Remember that the first project is this one, the Raykite mini 4-patch or 4-patch mini quilt, and this one goes live on June 8th, so you still have time to sign up, to gather your funds. If you do want to sign up, from now until next Friday is the time period to get in on it before we close the doors, all right? And we won't be taking any new students after June 3rd at 11:59 p.m. And then, I don't even remember what I was saying. Oh, the foundation papers, I'll talk a little bit about this, about the supplies. So if you're wanting to do the foundation papers like you'll see me doing in some of the video lessons, I'm going to be adding, and then the videos will probably be up before we start on June 8th. I wanted to do like a separate bonus video going over the traditional foundation paper piece method where we stitch on the actual paper itself. And if you need a quick demo of that, I did one, an hour-long demo last week on WIP Wednesday, episode 68. So if you want to watch that and kind of get some more info on, you know, what we're going to be doing in this club, you'll see that there. Then this is the foundation paper that I use, and we carry it in our online shop at craftygemini.com. It's 100 sheets of 8.5 inch by 11 paper. So we run it right through our printer and print the templates of the foundations right on here, okay? Now, I did go ahead and design all these blocks and the different components so that each section can easily be printed on 8.5 by 11 sheets. So like, for example, because the Tulip mini quilt here is made up of 2 larger blocks, it's basically a 2-page printable PDF that you're going to be printing out on the foundation paper or freezer paper, depending on which method you choose. And again, I said I'll have bonus videos for both of those methods and my third hybrid method posted before the first project goes live. So you'll definitely want to, you know, be checking your email, because that's, you know, we'll message all the signed up students so that you know that those bonus videos are there for you to watch. And that way you can see how the different methods or how I use the different methods to make the blocks. And so when the first one goes live on June 8th, then you can decide which one you want to do, okay? Because what I'll do is while I'm filming the individual lessons of the projects, I'll do different methods in the course. And that way you can kind of decide. Sometimes I'll do the paper method, and sometimes I'll do the freezer paper method. And then sometimes, without even knowing, I do my hybrid method. So you'll have to watch the lessons and see what works best for you, okay? But I was saying this one is going to be a 2 pages worth, because on one page, this larger foundation is printed, and on the second page, this foundation is printed, okay? But that's going to be it. Now, there will... I'm choking on my own breath, Lord. The joys of live streaming. Oof. Okay. What else was I saying? I got thrown off when I said that, and that. Anyways, these will print on each one. Oh, and some of them will have, and you'll see it on the cutting directions as we go through it and we cut each piece of fabric that we need for the blocks. So the block for this one, because it is almost 10 inches or it's 10 and a half like this, it'll finish at 10 inches. From here to here, including this top border, is all part of the foundation. And so this additional strip we just add on at the end to give us kind of like a little bottom border. Let me grab this. So that when we do sew this block into, say you wanted to make this into a big pillow cover, you can add a chunky border to it. If you wanted to make a quilt that featured a ton of these blocks, whatever is going to get sewn to here, I didn't want it to clip the peak or the point there of that ice cream cone. Does that make sense? And so we add a little bit extra of a border so that the whole ice cream cone is more like floating in that background. And so this piece is not on the foundation, but we tell you in the cutting directions to cut another strip, the dimensions, and that way we piece it on, okay? So some of them feature things like that, some of them don't because they're already built into the foundation. Like the kitty one, each one has like separate strips here around the side. So you can do different, you know, I have white here, so all you see the background is white that blends in around all four of the kitty faces, but you could do different, you know, different fabrics for the different sashing parts of it if you wanted to, or if you really had a ton of scraps that you wanted to use up. So, I mean, there's going to be, that's why I'm so excited to see the projects y'all make, because you are using scrap fabrics or, you know, bits and pieces from your stash. Everybody's projects are going to look so different. Okay, I love it. Like I'm even thinking here, instead of just using white, if you had really pale, like a good stash of pale fabrics, like really light cream, a white on white tonal, if you had like, you know, those light fabrics that are like white with little speckles of gray or something like that, these pieces could all be different things like that, and that would make it like a low volume quilt where the background was made up of all different types of really light prints, not necessarily white or plain solids, but like just lighter in comparison to the cats. Oh, that would make this look so fresh and modern. And then, like I said earlier, we're going to go in and talk about different ways that you can add eyes here and even some whiskers if you wanted to. So that'll be a way to kind of add some more components, other stitching components to it that's not just part of the patchwork. So I think that'll be cool too. Okay, let's see. Let me pop in here. So Maria's asking, is this going to be friendly to a person that has never done quilts before? So this is a great question, and I've gotten this several times in the past couple of days, people asking me. So I would say you totally could. And I have students, I had Barb. Are you out there, Barb? Barb had never sewn before, and she joined my Clammy Quilt Club last year. Curves, okay? She jumped in head first, like all the way in, and she made the projects. So because I teach everything step by step via video lessons, a confident beginner can absolutely tackle this. My only concern is that because we're building the blocks on the back of a foundation, and that's already like people that make quilts, they still sometimes can't wrap their head around that. So that's what I'm here to kind of help break down. This project is sewn with the paper here and the fabric like this facing out. So you're putting them both wrong sides together, and that's how it's built up. So it's going to take a little bit for it to click in your head. But if you are willing and able to tackle the videos step by step, you can even slow them down if you want to, and try out my practice block, which is this one. That's a freebie one that we have right now on the website. I would say try out, and I'm trying to see where the made sample of it is so you could see it. It's just this, just random little scraps, or a little 4-inch block, okay? That's a super simple practice block to work on. And if you did something like that, then I would say, okay, if you do it successfully, I would say you can totally jump in. Because the thing is, you're gonna need to know how to cut fabrics accurately. Of course, I'll go into the stuff and go over the cutting measurements and what I'm doing, but you need to have some basics of cutting, sewing straight. You need to know how to thread your sewing machine, how to wind a bobbin, how to replace a bobbin, and the little things that is the basics. You got to have that down really, so that you can, you know, whole open-mindedly learn this new technique, okay? I feel like if you're not very confident or you've never sewn anything before, you might find that you're struggling because it's so much info coming at you, especially because I teach in a way where I'm constantly dropping tips and tricks. I do that a lot. Sometimes I'm editing the videos like, wow, no wonder it ended up being 20 minutes long because I shared like 17 tips. And so that is kind of how I teach. So I do recommend that you have some basic sewing skills for sure, but basic quilting skills if possible, meaning you know what a 1/4 of an inch seam looks like. You know how to position the needle on your sewing machine or your presser foot to 1/4 of an inch, like little things like that. Or you know how to move the needle position, if you know how to change the presser foot. Little things that just, that you have a decent understanding of how to work the sewing machine and you have the proper tools too, like a rotary cutter, some quilting rulers, a rotary cutting mat, an iron. If you have all that and you've kind of dibbed and dabbled in a couple projects, then I would say yes. Because from then on, everything is step by step, okay? And so we'll walk you through everything left. All right. Oh, Wendy says she has no wall space left, but she plans to make the lesson samples into placemats, table runners, and pillows for Christmas. Yay, Vanessa. That sounds awesome, Wendy. And you see, I cannot wait to see what y'all make. This is going to be so, so, so fun. All right. Hey, Barb. I see you are on here. All right. Let's see. Oh, Candy says, I love the cat pattern. My daughter does too. I wonder what she's going to want me to make out of it. And once she sees the eyes and whiskers on it, I know she's going to want that mini quilt up in her room for sure. Oh, awesome. Alex says, I'm loving all these projects. I'll sign up as soon as we're done. I don't want to miss a thing. Awesome, girl. I can't wait to see the cute fabrics that you pick. All right. Any questions? Okay, so we're getting a question about thread. When it comes to foundation paper piecing, I usually will use a 50 weight cotton thread, okay? I usually will use, and I have it here still on the sewing machine, a Wonderfill. It's 100% Egyptian cotton confetti thread, 50 weight, okay? I don't like to use super thick thread when I'm doing foundation paper piecing because if you are stitching through the paper, you're already adding more bulk because it's not just fabric now, it's paper too. And when we go to pull it, usually I find that if the thread is thicker, there's just like a little bit more room in between the stitches. It can be a little bit bulkier right there when I'm trying to press things flat. If the thread is thicker, it's also going to add more bulk underneath the seam allowance if you're pressing seams open in some of like the chunkier spots where more seams meet up. And so I tend to go thinner the better. Now, I do know plenty of quilters that will use like an 80 weight polyester thread for foundation paper piecing because of exactly what I'm talking about here. I use a 50 weight cotton because this is usually what I use when I'm piecing any quilt, whether it's foundation paper piecing or not. I usually am working with a 50 weight cotton. But if you piece your quilts with something even thinner, go for it, you know? Some people, like I was saying, will use like an 80 weight polyester thread. The purists will say, no way, I would not use polyester on cotton fabric. But, times are changing. People use whatever they feel like using. So an 80 weight polyester thread stitching through paper, remember how thread works. The higher the weight of the thread, okay, the higher the number in front of where it says WT, the thinner the thread is. So 50 weight is thinner than a 30 or 40 weight, right? Because 50 is higher. But if we go to 80, 80 is going to be even thinner than a 50 weight thread. And so if you're stitching through paper or you really want your seams to just kind of like melt into the fabric to where there's like virtually no thread bulk, that might be a good option for you. Okay, but you got to kind of play around with things and see what you like best, what you're willing to use, whether cotton or polyester, and the thickness of it. But I would not go any thicker than a 50 weight cotton. Like a 40 weight cotton, I wouldn't even play with it. Not for this. Because again, remember, all these blocks require so many different pieces. You want to go thinner everywhere that you can. So one of the things is we're doing, we're using a foundation paper that's thinner than regular printer paper because it makes things easier for us, less bulk, and easier to rip out if we're doing that FPP method. So you want to go thinner on the thread too. 40 weight thread is going to be chunky. That's almost like a top stitching thread. I wouldn't use it to piece here. Okay? Especially like things like this where we have this patchwork piece. This is a separate one, this one, and this one. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pieces of fabric all come together at this angle to here. And then all these chunky seams in this little 1-inch area have to get sewn to the intersections of this, 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 and this. Because black is sewn to yellow, so you have a bulky seam there. Yellow sewn to black, so you have seam allowance there. This to this, and this. So it's just, there's too many seams coming together. I could not imagine using like a 40 or 30 weight thread to do something like this. This is already chunky as it is. I would not go any thicker than that. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Randy's asking, did you design the paper pieces? I did. So I put these all together with specific reasons in mind. I want to go different sizes. I want to go different angles. I want some to stand alone and go bigger on the size like these, smaller with more pieces. Like it's all part of how I teach and how I like to put together my classes. So there is a method to my madness here, y'all. And remember I said that with this tulip one, I wanted y'all to have at least one project in here that did this really, really thin tapered off. If you start really digging into foundation paper piece designs, you will see some wild quilt patterns that you're like, yeah, no. At least that's what I say and how I feel. Like, no, I would never make that. You know, because there's so many blocks, like these kind of starburst and huge, like New York Beauty blocks and stuff, and they are just, whew, so many pieces, so many angles, so precise. And so I did want to feature that and not just keep things so basic. I think I have a decent balance of size, number of patchwork pieces per block, per mini quilt, different angles, things for you to keep in mind as you know, take on your foundation paper piecing journey even further, working on larger projects and even larger size quilts. But this was definitely something I wanted to do because you also need to think about the bulk of the seam, right? So this is one piece, this is one piece, and this is one separate fabric piece. And all three come together here. So there's seams behind all of these, and they're all doubled up because every two pieces that you sew together has two pieces of fabric in that seam. Okay, and so this is, you know, kind of a more, it's not even an advanced technique because once you have one method down, you can make any of these like that, especially since I give you the cutting directions to give you enough room so you don't end up with blocks being short. But it's part of foundation paper piecing of what you're likely to find out there once you start, you know, ordering patterns that you like and wanting to make larger projects. When you see this, I don't want you to run from it, basically is what I'm saying. That's how I like to teach, right? I teach you little bits of other things that you may encounter or that you may want to try out in the future. Okay? Awesome. Diana says, I just joined. Yay! She says, I've never quilted before. Would I still be able to understand and follow along? Absolutely. If you sew, like you know how to work your sewing machine and all that, you'll be fine because we're going to be stitching on the line. But I do want you to have some basics down. And by that, I mean like know how to use a ruler with a rotary cutter. If I tell you you got to cut a piece that measures 2 inches by 7, you got to be able to cut that piece, okay? So stuff like that, you'll be good to go. Beyond that, I would say just take your time with the video lessons. I do break everything down into separate lessons. So like when we make this one on June 8th, right? Like June 8th, the video lessons for the Raykite mini quilt are going to be posted. You're going to see Raykite, and you'll see it there in the lessons. If you sign up, you can log into your account now, and you'll see the printables that you can download, the calendar, the coloring pages, all that kind of stuff. But then the whole club, like the lesson list, like imagine a full lecture list. It's like the table of contents of the entire club is already up. So you'll see video number 1, and it'll say whatever the title is next to it. And then if you click on it, it's not there yet because it'll say like check your calendar to know when the video will be posted here. But say this one, the video lessons, all of them, to make the block and put them together into a mini quilt is going to be posted on June 8th. This is the first project we're tackling. And so on June 8th, afternoon, at Eastern time, you can log in, and it'll be like one video cutting out the pieces for the Raykite block. The next video for this project will be, you know, starting to piece it together, and I'll walk you through all the different steps, whether I do it on the using the foundation paper or the freezer paper. And then it'll be like trimming the block, piecing the blocks together. And so all the different video lessons for each are going to be dripped out like that based on the dates that we've included in the calendar. Okay, so y'all can print out that calendar, and that way you know exactly when is going what is going up and when, and you can follow along with the whole schedule of the club. Okay, awesome. Marcia says, I joined. Welcome, Marcia. I can't wait to see your mini quilts. Okay, any other questions that I missed? Did you see anything else? Oh, Linda's asking, are your quilt sandwiches just sitting together or are they sewn together? They are dun spray basted together, girl. I didn't want to do my hand basting technique because then you would see like random colors of thread all sewn through here, and I really wanted you to see the different mini quilts that we're going to be making, and so I just spritzed it and the little sandwiches are held. And so like I mentioned, I'll be including in this Quilt Club some bonus videos on options and ways that you could quilt your mini quilts, especially if you're going to be putting them up on your wall somewhere. I will share some options so that you're not completely lost and like, okay, I have this done, now what do I do? So I'll be sharing some tips on how to quilt these on a sit-down sewing machine as well as on my long arm, okay? So yeah, I use Sulky KK2000. If you've been in my classes or watched my video tutorials, you know about this stuff. It is non-toxic, odorless, clear, safe for our planet. It says ozone friendly. It has no CFCs or HCFCs, and so a little goes a long way. It's pricey, but it lasts a long time. So that's what I use. And you can just get it on Amazon. Marcia says, I'm obsessed with the add a quarter rulers. What is the difference with the plus version? So I'll mention this briefly. If you want to watch a more in-depth demo where I show you myself making a block, I was making one of these guys. This was on episode 68 of WIP Wednesday. So just last Wednesday, I shared this info because we carry them in our online shop. I do believe we're sold out of the pluses, but the add a quarter ruler is optional, but it's super handy if you're going to be really getting into foundation paper piecing. And the plus one is so that, let me find my little card here. Usually when we fold on the foundation, and I'm just going to do a quick demo. I'm not going to spend too much time because I did it like really in depth on the WIP Wednesday, but just because I know we have some new people here. So say you're going to be sewing here. I mean, it says A1, but say you're going to start on one end with A6. We usually, or back in the days when we first started with all this, before this add a quarter ruler, I don't know that it existed before then, but once all the quilters found out about it, the game changed. So I used to just put a little card on the line that's going to connect the two foundation pieces, okay? And you would fold back like that. Now you can remove this or leave it or whatever, but basically when this is folded up, you have more layers here of the paper and of the little postcard that you're using to create that crease. And so let's pretend. If I was sewing a piece of fabric here, and you'd have to pretend that there was another one there, but like when you go to put it on your other fabric piece, let's pretend. The idea is that the flange that is built into the add a quarter ruler gets caught. You see how I can't push it any further? I mean, if I hit it really hard, but it's getting hung up on the bulk that the folded back paper and that little postcard there are making. So that flange is 1/4 inch wide. And so what it does is allows you to line it up where you need to trim for your 1/4 inch seam allowance. And when I remove the scrap that I just trimmed away, what you have left because of that flange is exactly 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then it makes it easier to align the next piece of fabric that needs to go there, and you take it to your sewing machine to sew. Okay, so the plus ruler basically gets rid of this. So instead, you would go with the tapered thinner side onto the line, crease it back against there, okay? And then you would flip it so that now it has the same flange, and then you would just place that there to align, you know, your 1/4 inch seam allowance that you need extra there, and then you would trim with that. So that's all the plus ruler is. But the add a quarter by itself is the same. You know, they both, you use them for that 1/4 inch flange. The other thing is that this side just has a tapered edge so that you don't need like a little cardstock or postcard chunk there to help you create the crease, okay? All right. Let's see if anything else. Oh my gosh, Krista says she has bee fabric scraps on her table as she watches. Oh, I can't wait to see what you make. What fabrics you choose to make your little bumblebee. That's going to be super cute. All right, Josie says she just joined. Awesome. Hey, Susie. She says, I'm in. I've been wanting to learn this for a long time. I'm super excited. I think a lot of you are really going to like light bulb moment and be like, wow, this is what foundation paper piecing is. So I am super excited to have y'all join me in the new quilt club. We're going to crank through these mini quilts, and then remember that you get unlimited indefinite access to all the course content. We have printables that include the coloring pages, obviously PDF printables of the foundations themselves. The coloring pages for each of these 5 mini quilts you can color in so that you can audition the fabrics or even just the colors to begin with that you want to use for the different components. The kitty one there, you got a supply checklist that you can print out now once you join. It's on the club platform. That way you can check off the supplies, whether you have them or not, or you need to gather them up. It's pretty much just basic supplies though. We have a 2-page printable calendar for June and July so that you can know exactly when each project is going to be posted to the course platform, when you can submit your, live Q&A questions, when the live Q&A chat per project is going to be held, when our live Zoom social hours is going to be held, all that kind of stuff. When our off week is, definitely print these out, put them up, enter the dates into your agenda, your phone, whatever it is. You got a free PDF there that includes 7 quilting tips for foundation paper piecing, and then we're going to be dripping out the cutting directions before each project goes out, just so that you have some time to cut out all the individual fabric pieces that you need to complete each one of the blocks, okay? So like for the Raykite here, you see it says cut 4 of each because we're making 4 blocks. So the idea is that you're cutting out the pieces to create the mini quilt, not just one individual block, unless the mini quilt is one individual block, like it is in the case of the ice cream cone and the bumblebee. Okay, so a bunch of added printables there, bonus videos. There's going to be over 20 different video lessons on how to do all the things, and I'll be teaching you 3 different ways to do foundation paper piecing. Okay, so, did I start at 7? My husband's probably hungry, y'all. Did you eat? He's probably like, hello. Okay, we've gone over an hour, but I think I covered everything. The price, again, I think I only mentioned it a few times, is $97 to get in, and then you have access to everything indefinitely. And again, I'll tell you the window. This club, like we're only going to be taking in students starting today, which is Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, until next Friday, June 3rd, 2022. Okay, at 11:59 p.m. At that time, it's going to go to out of stock on my website and you won't be able to join. Okay, so tell your friends. Y'all got a little over a week to get in. And I can't wait. Again, I keep saying it. I can't wait to see your mini quilts, but I feel like maybe I should pay my kids a couple dollars to come in here and pull out all my fabric scraps so I have more options without me having to dig through the bins. Because I mean, you could do so much with small chunks. And let me, I think, say one thing to those of you that maybe don't have large fabric stashes. If you just are planning to like buy fabric, quarter yards, fat eighths, that's going to be plenty for like the individual parts and components, right? If you have an idea, like you saw the tulip and you're thinking, okay, I know I'm going to make 36 of these and I'm going to make a big quilt for my guest room or whatever, then okay, you're going to need more fabric. But if you're just planning to make the mini quilts as shown here in these sizes that are like cute, these are going up on my wall for sure, my mini quilt wall, then you don't need that large of a piece, okay? Even a fat quarter is way more than you would need for any of the individual sections. So keep that in mind too, okay? All right. Shirley's asking, how do I join? The link is in the description box below. We're going to put it in there for you. It's also in the comments in the chat box here on Facebook. But the quickest and easiest way is probably go to craftygemini.com/shop, and it will be the first product under all products. Or we have a menu also for club memberships. If you click there, you'll see it says FPP Quilt Club in a little cute graphic. And all the information will be there. It tells you what you get. And then you'll see the $97 sale price, and you can click to add to cart, and you will be automatically added into the course. So you'll get an email receipt that will tell you exactly how to log in. You basically just go to my website. On the top right, you'll see a login button. You would log into your student account. On your student dashboard, you see the menu. Click on My Individual Courses, and then you should see it right there. Just click on the icon and you're in. You can start downloading your PDFs and going through the different lessons just so you familiarize yourself with the platform and know how to navigate it so that when we get started, you can hit the ground running. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everybody so much for tuning in. I hope that you will consider joining my new Quilt Club Foundation Paper Piecing Edition. We're going to have a lot of fun making these projects, and I will see y'all in the next video. I'll be reminding you throughout the week that next Friday, June 3rd at midnight is the last day to sign up for the Quilt Club. So you'll see my face again in a couple days.